It all happened like I knew it would. A single drop of source magic. And, like flies to honey, the monsters swarmed. The rebel panicked. The carnage began. And the Magisters pointed their fingers at me. Just as I'd planned. I was shackled and collared, and sent to Fort Joy. I'd come here to kill Godwoken. But instead I became part of their story.
So, it wasn't a dream after all.
That can't be natural.
Ah, you're up. Yes. Looks like that collar fits you snugly enough. Nice bit of work, even if I do say so myself. There. Not too tight, I hope. In the meantime, your next stop will be Magister William. All passengers have to be registered in the ship's manifest, and he's the chap in charge of the logs. You'll find him on the other side of this deck, in the officers' quarters. Dungeon? You have the gall to call my laboratory a dungeon? Oh, I'd be quite annoyed with you, if you didn't look so honestly perplexed.
Index fingers pressed to her lips, she pauses a moment to give you a scrutinizing gander.
My word, you do seem a bit befuddled, don't you? Perhaps I was a bit too generous with that sedative. Oh well, I'm sure you'll soon gather your wits. Most likely. Eventually. In the meantime, all you need to know is that we're en route to Fort Joy. A new life awaits. And if you're a particularly good boy, perhaps a cure as well. An end to Source. For good.
Good gods. There's been a murder here.
Ugly sight, isn't it? Burns me up this happened under our protection. We're extremely lucky no Voidwoken followed the source that did this. Finn didn't see it like that. He was desperate for us to help him. Two things scared the living daylights out of him. His own shadow and his own son. We'll find out who did this.
She looks up at you with a mirthless smile.
I was on duty in your room when the murder happened. You were asleep the whole time. Didn't even stir. You're one of the only indisputably innocent people on the ship. Unless you can commit murder in your sleep, of course. Finn was killed by Source. If a Magister could do that, there wouldn't be a Magister. It looks more like a passenger managed to slip their collar. And the rest, well, you see the evidence in front of you. Listen, I could use someone to keep their ears open among the passengers. Sometimes they clam up in front of a uniform. Bring me a good lead, and I'll throw in a shiny gold coin for you. How about that? Thanks.
The hatch is blocked. I'll need to find another way.
no known associates?
In fact, he seemed quite averse to spending time with the others.
Why won't you sing? I know there's a process over time, you know.
You put a knuckle in it. I'm trying to concentrate. They don't care about us. We're like cattle to them.
Ah, there you are. Husband, would you please tell this very charming gaggle of not-at-all brat-like babes that I am by no accounts this Losa woman, nor do I sing, in fact. I'm deathly allergical. How very correct you are, spouse of mine. Madame Josephine Gribbles de Peeb refuses to be confused with anyone else. What? What's so funny?
Her pinched face cracks into a great grin, and she shoos the children away.
Yeah, okay, you found me out. Go on and git, and maybe I'll sing you something when I'm good and ready.
She turns to you, dark-eyed and dirty-haired, and smiles flatly.
Gotta keep ourselves entertained, haven't we? You presume right. Nope, trying not to find anything out either. Ignorance is bliss. The utterer, the better. Thanks, but I already belong to an elite and exclusive ship gang. We play ball every day after lunch. You're too soft for it. You take care, though.
Suddenly, her eyes cloud to an unnatural black. Greyish veins run down her face, and her mouth tightens into a cruel. As quickly as they came, the clouds clear. She smiles as though no change came.
Good luck, Chief.
You're a human, like me. That means we're friends already. My mum told me not to make...
That's enough now.
It was one of them. I know it.
Name? The Divine Order wants to know. Well, you aren't here on my list. Scrammy. We're trying to catch a killer here.
I'll give you that knuckle if you keep carrying on.
One of us wouldn't kill her. You one of them? A Divine Order loyal? They killed a sorcerer, you know. They'll hide the evidence well enough, but make no mistake.
Why won't you sing?
A broad dwarf sits totally upright. He raises an eyebrow as you approach, but doesn't open his eyes.
Listen up, boy. You hear that?
Never thought you'd end up a prison guard, Vic.
The ship, of course.
A wave of sound washes over you. The unintelligible chatter of your shipmates, the groaning of wood from floor to ceiling, the boom, crash and crackle of waves around you, complaints.
And?
Got this wolf on a leash now.
As soon as the Inquisitor gets here...
The fellow cocks his ear.
That isn't anger. It's
He cocks his ear to the other side, then smiles.
anticipation. She senses something. I'd hold on to my breeches if I were you, mate. That's all you hear, though. Listen close.
There's nothing else I can
There
do.
now, just like that.
Turnips and water are all I was...
Aha!
His eyes snap open as his countenance breaks into an expression of joy. One great paw claps you on the back. The other catches you before you lose your footing.
There has been a murder.
There. You heard it, didn't you? I knew it. I knew it. Aye, this is good news, boy. Good news.
Don't you get saucy with me. You clearly don't know the first thing about...
It's the wheel. The wheel. Don't you see, you beautiful idiot? Squeaks whenever the helmsman jerks it clockwise, which means we're heading east. Burn my beard. That means if we've been traveling for... Yes, only 10.34 nautical miles to Fort Joy.
I always knew you'd turn up frogs and Ben Nest. Your kind always hung closest to our decline, like bones around a campfire.
Captain, actually.
Got this
And that figure tells me we're getting close to the Joy. Close to what lies beyond it, too.
The dwarf leans back from the table and strokes his beard, gold medallions jingling merrily. His eyes roll over to you.
That'll be all. Thank you kindly, boy.
I've seen more appetizing things coming out.
He continues stroking his beard, a beatific smile on his lips, and doesn't acknowledge you anymore.
Your Majesty, turnips and water are all I was given.
Unacceptable. I've never dined on anything less than a dozen course dinner, and I don't intend to do away with the custom.
Well, there has been a murder, Your Majesty. Maybe that has the Magister's more
Well,
concern.
What? The lizard looks you up and down. All of a sudden, he grips you firmly by the chin, with the intent of inspecting your teeth.
I'm inspecting your teeth, in case that wasn't... There's some discoloration, but I've seen worse. After all, one can't expect to find prime merchandise on a squalid little ship like... Now then, to business. You will answer me 3 questions. The first one... Oh, goodness. On to the second question. Can you knit, weave? In short, tailor? Yes, I can tell from your... On then to my final query. Just as So, 3 questions. As per your own testimony, you have the taste buds of a dung beetle, the fashion sense of a monkey in a clown suit, and your personal hygiene reminds one of a carcass rotting in the sun. That won't do at all, see? I'm sad to say I must deny you the opportunity to be my slave. Ever so sorry. My slave, of course. Oh, but I see. Yes, I suppose it must take some time for the full extent of my disheartening refusal to sink in. Still, hone your skills, and one day you may just qualify for a position in a lesser household than mine. You keep dreaming, you hear?
Can we just skip to the part where
I spent my life singing for my slaves to bring me my supper. Finer fare than boiled roots and rotten tubers. Meanwhile, the Magisters feast on honeyed meat behind this very wall. Who we are, what we've done, they mean less than nothing as long...
Never thought you'd end up a prison guard, Vic.
That right? I always...
A scruffy man lounges against the wall with scarred arms.
Watch your back, new fish. There's a murderer on board, and I'd bet 3 months' pay it's this trampy fan.
Rolling his eyes at the Magister's warning, the man named Ifan beckons again. He leans in and adjusts your collar with a sharp tug, balancing its weight so it no longer presses unpleasantly on your neck. He winks.
Pinches less that way, right?
Hocking a phlegmy gobbet in your general direction, the sullen Magister settles back to his task of glowering at Ifan. And now, you.
We used to know each other, more's the pity. I was his commander many, many, many moons ago. Isn't that right, Vic?
Standing far back from Ifan, the tight-faced Magister draws one finger across his throat in an elaborate fashion. Ifan grins, flashing pointed white.
Same as he was at 14 years old. Only difference is somebody gave him a bigger sword and now he's Johnny Big Pants. Long story. Maybe I'll tell you about it in the Joy. No. The dead man, Finn, is it? I'd no business with him. And I wouldn't put a man down without good reason.
He glances over at Magister Victor, who's staring back at him with pointed intent.
Damn shame sheer annoyance isn't reason enough. The Joy, I've heard a lot. Nothing good. No surprise there, since Bishop Alexander... Wonder if we'll get to meet the ringmaster himself. Easy now. I might think the same, but Vic here will blow a blood...
What are you conspiring about over there? You! What's your name?
How dare you classify this